The morning air was sharp with the kind of chill that clings to your skin even after you've zipped up your jacket. I was halfway down the driveway, keys jingling in my hand, already thinking about the long day ahead at work, when a voice cut through the quiet like a knife. It was her, the woman from 2 houses down. We'd exchanged polite nods for years, but never much more than that. She stood there on the sidewalk, arms crossed tight over her chest, eyes locked on mine like she was trying to burn a hole straight through me. "Do you even know what your daughter's been up to?" The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach dropped. My hands froze around the keys. For a second I couldn't breathe. All I could think was, oh God, what happened? Is she hurt? Is she in trouble? I opened my mouth to ask what she meant, but before I could get a single word out, the woman shook her head slowly like she was disappointed in me. Like I had already failed some test I didn't even know I was taking. She turned and walked away without another word. Just left me standing there in the cold with that awful question hanging in the air. I rushed back inside the house, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The front door slammed behind me harder than I meant it to. Lily, her room was at the end of the hall. I called her name as I ran down the hallway, but there was no answer. No sound at all. Her bedroom door was open. Too open. Like someone had left in a hurry. I stepped inside and everything felt wrong. The bed was made too neatly for a teenager. Her favorite hoodie was gone from the hook by the door. Her sketchbook, the one she always carried everywhere, was missing from the desk. And then I saw it. A single sheet of paper lying right in the center of her pillow. My hands shook as I picked it up. The handwriting was hers, no doubt about it, but it looked different, somehow smaller, tighter, like she was trying to hold herself together while writing it. It said only this: "No contact." Not a word. That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. Just those 4 words staring back at me like a wall I couldn't climb. I read it again and again, hoping the meaning would change, but it never did. My mind raced through every possibility. Had she run away? Was she with someone dangerous? Did she hate me that much that she could just disappear like this? I checked her phone, charger still plugged in. Her laptop gone. Her backpack nowhere to be found. I opened her closet and saw that half her clothes were missing too, not just random stuff but the things she actually liked to wear. This was planned. She had been planning this for a while and I had no idea. How did I not see it? I sat down on the edge of her bed, feeling like the floor had vanished beneath me. Memories flashed through my head. The way she stopped talking to me at dinner. How she started locking her bedroom door. The late nights when I thought she was studying, but maybe she was doing something else entirely. I told myself she was just growing up, that teenagers need space. But now I wondered if I had used that as an excuse to ignore the signs that were right in front of me. Just last week I asked her if everything was okay. She looked at me with those tired eyes and said, "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine." And I believed her. Why did I believe her? I pulled out my own phone and dialed her number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again, each time hoping to hear her voice, but all I got was that same robotic message. I texted her asking where she was, telling her I was worried, begging her to please just let me know she was safe. Nothing came back. I walked back to the living room and stared out the window toward the street. The neighbor was gone. Her house looked quiet, normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. I thought about going to her, knocking on her door, demanding answers. But something held me back. The look in her eyes earlier, it wasn't just anger. There was fear there too. And maybe even pity. Like she knew something about my daughter that I didn't. Something bad enough that she felt the need to warn me, but not enough to actually help. I spent the next hour searching every inch of Lily's room looking for anything, a note, a receipt, a clue. Under her mattress I found a folded map of the next town over. On it someone had circled a spot near the old train station in red pen. I didn't recognize the handwriting. It was messy, almost frantic. I also found a small notebook tucked inside one of her shoes. Most of the pages were blank except for a few lines scribbled near the back. They read. They said they understand me. They said I don't have to go back. They said it's not my fault. Who were they? What wasn't her fault? My hands trembled as I closed the notebook. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But more than anything I wanted to find her. To hold her. To tell her whatever it was we could fix it together. But she had made one thing painfully clear. No contact. Not a word. So I sat on her bed clutching that piece of paper like it was the last thread connecting us and waited. Hoping against hope that she would change her mind. That she would come home. That she would give me a chance to be the mother she needed me to be. Outside the sky turned gray. Rain began to fall softly against the window. And still there was no sign of her. Just silence. And those 4 words echoing in my head like a sentence I couldn't escape from. No contact. Not a word. I kept replaying the neighbor's face in my mind. The way she looked at me like I was the villain in some story I never agreed to be part of. Maybe I was. Maybe I missed something important. Maybe I pushed her away without even realizing it. I remembered how she used to sit with me on the porch during summer evenings talking about school, her friends, her dreams. Somewhere along the way those talks stopped. Replaced by silence and closed doors. I thought it was just part of growing up. But now I wonder if it was me who changed, if I became too busy, too tired, too distracted to really listen. The rain got heavier, tapping against the roof like impatient fingers. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. Made a cup of tea out of habit even though I wasn't thirsty. Held the warm mug in my hands and stared out the window again. The street was empty. No cars. No people. Just wet pavement reflecting the dull gray sky. I thought about calling the police. But what would I say? My daughter left a note saying no contact. Should I file a missing persons report when she clearly chose to leave? I felt trapped between fear and respect. Fear for her safety. Respect for her choice even if I didn't understand it. I went back to her room and sat on the floor, this time leaning against her bed. Looked at the posters on the wall, the photos taped to the mirror, the little trinkets on her shelf. Each one a memory. Each one a piece of her I still had even if she was gone. I whispered into the empty room, I love you. Please be safe. And then I waited. Because that's all I could do. Wait. And hope that someday soon those 4 words would lose their power. No contact. Not a word. Because I needed her to speak. Even if it was just to say she hated me. At least then I would know she was alive. At least then I would know she was real. Not just a ghost in an empty room leaving behind silence and questions I couldn't answer. The next morning felt heavier than the last. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw her face, quiet, distant, like she was already gone even when she was standing right in front of me. I got up before sunrise, made coffee that tasted like ash and went back to her room. Not because I expected to find anything new, but because it was the only place that still felt connected to her. I sat on the floor again, this time with a notebook of my own. I started writing down everything I could remember from the past few months. Little things. Things I had brushed off at the time. The way she stopped eating dinner with me. How she flinched when I raised my voice, even if it was just about something small like forgetting to take out the trash. The nights I heard her crying through the wall but told myself she needed space. Now those moments felt like warning signs flashing red, but I had kept driving straight ahead. I looked again at the map I found under her mattress. The circle around the train station in the next town. It was too specific to be random. I decided I had to go there. Not to confront anyone. Just to see. To understand. I drove slowly through the rain-slick streets, the wipers thumping like a tired heartbeat. The town over was smaller, quieter. The train station was old brick and rusted metal, mostly used by commuters passing through. I parked across the street and watched for a while. Nothing seemed out of place. A few people waiting with umbrellas. A man walking his dog. A woman reading on a bench. Then I noticed something. Near the far end of the platform, tucked between two benches, was a small flyer taped to a pole. It was faded from the weather, but I could still make out the words "Safe Space Youth Support." There was a phone number and an address not far from where I was sitting. My chest tightened. Was this what she was looking for, a safe space? I wrote down the address and drove there without thinking too much. It was a modest house with a green door and flower boxes in the windows. A sign by the gate read Horizon House. No explanation. Just the name. I didn't go inside. I just sat in my car watching. After a few minutes, a young person came out carrying a backpack. They looked nervous but calm. Someone inside the house waved from the window. It was a simple, ordinary moment, but it felt full of care. I wondered if she had been there. If she had walked up that path, knocked on that green door and asked for help. I drove home with more questions than answers, but also with a tiny flicker of hope. At least now I knew she might be somewhere safe. Somewhere kind. Back at the house, I checked my phone again. Still nothing. But then I remembered something else. Her school. She had missed 3 days in a row before she left. Maybe someone there knew something. I called the school office, and after some back and forth they agreed to let me come in and speak with the counselor. I didn't tell them why. I just said it was urgent. The school smelled like chalk and old carpet. The counselor met me in a small room with posters about mental health and kindness on the walls. She was gentle-spoken with tired eyes that said she had seen too many kids fall through the cracks. I asked if she had noticed anything unusual about my daughter lately. She hesitated. Said she couldn't share details because of privacy rules. But then she leaned forward slightly and said in a low voice, "She came to me a few weeks ago. She seemed scared. She wouldn't say what was wrong, but she kept asking if there were places she could go if things got bad at home." I felt like I had been punched again. Bad at home, was that how she saw it? I told the counselor we never fought. We never yelled. I tried to give her everything she needed. The counselor nodded slowly and said, "Sometimes it isn't about what you do wrong. It's about what they think they have to hide." That sentence stuck with me all the way home. When I got back, I went through her room one more time. This time I looked deeper. Behind the dresser I found a small plastic bag. Inside was a cheap prepaid phone. The kind you buy with cash and no ID. My hands shook as I turned it on. The battery was dead, but I found the charger in her desk drawer. I plugged it in and waited. When the screen lit up, it asked for a passcode. I tried her birthday. No. Our address number. No. Then I tried the day she got her first art award, the one she was so proud of. The phone unlocked. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the messages. Most were deleted, but a few remained near the bottom. They were from a number with no name, just digits. The messages were short, vague, but chilling. "You don't have to stay there. They will never understand you like I do. I'm the only one who sees the real you. And then one that made my blood run cold. If you really want out, I can help you disappear. I dropped the phone like it was burning me. So this was it. Someone had been talking to her, feeding her lies, making her believe she had no one else. But then I noticed something else. In the photos folder there was one image. Just one. It showed a bus ticket. Destination not far from Horizon House. Date stamped 2 days before she left. She had planned to leave. But she didn't go to meet that person. She went to the safe house instead. That changed everything. It meant she was trying to protect herself. That she had second thoughts. That maybe she was stronger than I gave her credit for. I sat on her bed holding that cheap phone, feeling a mix of terror and pride. Terror because someone out there had targeted her. Pride because she chose safety over running into the arms of a stranger. I thought about calling the police about the messages, but I knew they would say it wasn't enough evidence. Not yet. So I took screenshots, saved everything, and put the phone back exactly where I found it. Then I did something I should have done weeks ago. I wrote her a letter. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A real letter on paper with ink that smudged when my tears fell on it. I didn't ask questions. I didn't beg. I just said I was sorry for not seeing her pain. That I loved her no matter what. That our home was still her home whenever she was ready. I folded it carefully and drove back to Horizon House. I didn't go inside. I just slipped the letter into their mailbox with a note saying, "Please give this to her if she comes to you." As I walked back to my car, I saw the neighbor again. She was across the street buying groceries. Our eyes met for a second. This time she didn't look away. She just nodded once. Slowly. Like she was saying, "I know you are trying." I got into my car and sat there for a long time. The rain had stopped. A sliver of sun broke through the clouds. It was small, but it was something. I still didn't have her back. But I had a direction. A thread to follow. And for the first time since she left, I felt like I was doing something right. I drove home with the windows down, letting the cool air fill the car. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew I would keep showing up. Keep looking. Keep loving her even if she never spoke to me again. Because love doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just needs to be there, waiting quietly in the dark until the light returns. Days turned into a week. The house felt too quiet, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I kept the letter I wrote tucked in my coat pocket just in case I needed to read it again to remind myself I was still trying. I checked the mailbox every morning even though I knew she wouldn't send anything back. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But then something changed. I was walking home from the grocery store, arms full of bags, when I saw her best friend sitting on our front steps. She looked small, wrapped in an oversized jacket, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her eyes were red like she had been crying, but she stood up fast when she saw me. We hadn't spoken since the day everything fell apart. I always thought they were inseparable. But after she left, I never saw this girl around. I assumed she was angry at me, or maybe she just didn't know what to say. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other and said, "I need to talk to you." Her voice was soft but firm, like she had rehearsed this moment over and over in her head. I nodded and opened the door. We sat in the kitchen, neither of us touching the mugs of tea I made out of habit. For a long time she just stared at her hands. Then she took a deep breath and said she was talking to someone online. Someone who said he worked for a college program. He told her they were looking for talented kids like her. Kids with big dreams but no support at home. My stomach twisted. So it was true. Someone had been pulling her strings. He sent her messages every day. Told her how special she was. Said her family would never get her. That she deserved better. At first she thought it was real. She showed me some of the messages. They sounded so convincing, so caring. But then she started noticing things. Like how he never gave his real name. How he always asked where she was alone. How he pushed her to leave without telling anyone. She tried to block him but he made new accounts. Sent her gifts. Even called her once from a number that looked local. That scared her. She stopped sleeping. Started skipping school. She felt trapped, like if she stayed she was stuck, but if she left she might be walking into something worse. I swallowed hard. Why didn't she tell me? The girl looked up, then her eyes full of pain. Because she thought you would blame her. She thought you would say she was stupid for believing him. She said you always wanted her to be strong and smart, and she felt like she failed you by falling for it. I closed my eyes. Oh no. No, no, no. I never wanted her to feel that way. I just wanted her to be safe. She went to the school counselor first. Then she found Horizon House online. She saved money from her weekend job, bought a bus ticket and left in the middle of the night. She didn't go to meet him. She went to the safe house because she was scared, but also because she wanted to fix this on her own. She said she needed to prove to herself she could make the right choice even when everything felt wrong. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I held them back. What about the neighbor? I asked quietly. The girl looked surprised. Oh. She saw her leaving. She caught her in the alley behind our houses. My daughter begged her not to tell anyone, said she needed time to figure things out. The neighbor agreed, but only if she promised to go somewhere safe. That's why she said what she did to you that morning. She was trying to warn you without breaking her promise. It all made sense now. The anger, the fear, the silence. She was protecting her in the only way she knew how. I asked the girl if she had heard from her since she left. She shook her head. But she visits Horizon House sometimes. I think she checks in. They won't give out info, but I saw her bike there last week. It's the blue one with the white stripe. Hope flickered again, small but steady. Before she left, the girl handed me a folded piece of paper. It was a drawing. A simple sketch of our porch with 2 chairs and a potted plant. On the back she had written in tiny letters, I miss home but I am not ready yet. I held it like it was made of glass. After she left, I sat on the floor in the hallway for a long time just staring at that drawing. It was proof she was thinking of us. That she still cared. That she wasn't gone forever. That night I drove to Horizon House again. This time I didn't leave a letter. I parked down the street and waited. Just for a few minutes. Not to spy. Just to see. And then I saw her. She was walking from the side gate toward the front steps. Her hair was shorter. She wore a hoodie I didn't recognize. But it was her. My heart leapt into my throat. She looked tired but calm. She paused at the door and looked up at the sky like she was breathing deeply before going inside. I didn't call out. I didn't move. I just watched until she disappeared inside. And then I drove away before anyone could see me. I knew then that pushing would only push her further away. She needed space. She needed to trust that I would wait. That I wouldn't punish her for being afraid. That I would love her even if she came back broken. The next day I went to the library and looked up everything I could about online predators. About how they groom young people. About the signs I missed. It hurt to read, but I needed to understand. I needed to make sure I never let something like this happen again. I also called Horizon House and spoke to someone in charge. I didn't ask for details. I just said I was her parent and I wanted her to know I was here. That I was learning. That I was sorry. The woman on the phone listened quietly and said, "Thank you for saying that. She hears more than you think." I started leaving small things in the mailbox. A photo of her as a kid laughing on the beach. A packet of her favorite tea. A book she loved when she was 12. Nothing demanding. Nothing heavy. Just little reminders that home remembered her. One afternoon I found a single dandelion on the porch step. No note. Just the flower. I picked it up and held it to my chest. It wasn't much, but it was something. A quiet hello from someone who was still watching. I began to notice other small signs too. The curtains in her room had been moved slightly, like someone had peeked through them. A mug I left in the sink was placed neatly in the dishwasher. Tiny things that said she was close. That she was checking in. I never mentioned them out loud. I just let them be. Let them exist like fragile bridges between us. And slowly I started healing too. Not because everything was fixed, but because I finally understood. She didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because she was trying to survive. And maybe part of her survival meant stepping away from the person she thought she disappointed most. Now I just had to show her that disappointment was never part of the story. Only love. Only waiting. Only hope. The days after seeing her outside Horizon House felt different. Not easier, but clearer. I stopped pacing the house like a ghost waiting for a sign. Instead I started doing things, small quiet things that made the space feel alive again. I watered the plants she used to care for. I played the old jazz records she loved even though they crackled with age. I left the porch light on every night just in case she ever walked by. I also kept visiting Horizon House but never went inside. I respected the line she had drawn. Instead I sat in my car across the street, sometimes reading, sometimes just watching the sky change color. I never stayed long. Just enough to remind myself she was safe. That she was breathing. That she was still here somewhere in this world. Then one rainy Tuesday everything shifted. I got a call from Horizon House. Not the usual polite update. This time it was urgent. The woman on the other end spoke gently but firmly. She said my daughter had asked them to reach out. She was ready to see something from me, but only if it was on her terms. No phone calls. No letters. No showing up at the door. Just a video. Short. Simple. And most importantly, no questions. My hands shook as I hung up. A video. How do you say everything you need to say in a few minutes without asking for anything back? I spent the whole night thinking about it. I wanted to beg her to come home. To tell her I couldn't sleep without knowing she was okay. But I knew that was about me, not her. So I pushed all that down and focused on what she needed to hear. The next morning I set up my phone on the kitchen table. Sunlight streamed through the window. I wore the sweater she gave me last birthday, the one she picked out because it matched my eyes. I took a deep breath and pressed record. I didn't look at the camera right away. I just sat there for a moment, letting the silence settle. Then I spoke softly, like I was talking to her in the dark when she was little and scared of thunder. I said, "I love you." That was all. No buts. No ifs. No "you should have" or "why didn't you." Just those 3 words, and then I let them hang in the air like an open door. I told her I was learning. That I read books about listening better, about seeing the signs I missed. That I was sorry for making her feel like she had to carry everything alone. I showed her the dandelion I found on the porch. Said I kept it pressed in my journal. That I noticed the little things. That I always would. And then I said the hardest part. You don't owe me anything. Not an explanation. Not a return date. Not even a reply. I just needed you to know you are loved exactly as you are, right where you are. I ended with I am here. Always. I watched the video twice before sending it. It felt too simple. Too quiet. But then I remembered how loud silence had been between us lately. Maybe quiet was exactly what we needed. I sent it to Horizon House and waited. 2 days passed. Nothing. I tried not to check my phone every 5 minutes, but my fingers kept drifting toward it like magnets. I cleaned the whole house. Made soup. Watered the garden. Anything to keep my mind from spiraling into worst-case scenarios. On the 3rd day I came home from the store and saw something on the front step. My breath caught. It was a small wrapped bundle tied with twine. Inside was her old stuffed rabbit, the one she slept with until she was 10. Its fur was worn thin from years of love. One ear was crooked from being tugged too many times. Tucked under its paw was a folded note. My hands trembled as I opened it. The handwriting was shaky but clear. I saw it. Thank you. That's all it said. But it was everything. She watched it. She heard me. And she reached back, not with words but with a piece of her childhood. A symbol of safety. Of comfort. Of trust. I held that rabbit to my chest and cried for the first time since she left. Not tears of sadness but of relief. Of connection. Of hope slowly stitching itself back together. That night I placed the rabbit on her pillow right where it belonged. I didn't move it. I let it sit there like a promise. Over the next week little things began to appear. A smooth stone from the creek behind our house left on the windowsill. A doodle of our cat taped to the fridge. A tea bag of her favorite flavor tucked into my coat pocket. Each one was a whisper. A quiet way of saying I am still here. I haven't forgotten you. I never responded directly. I just kept the porch light on. Kept leaving small offerings of my own, a bookmark with a pressed flower, a postcard from a place we once visited together, a new sketchbook left on the bench near the gate. One evening I found footprints in the garden mud. Small ones leading to her window and back out again. I didn't erase them. I let them stay until the rain washed them away. It was like we were speaking a new language, one made of objects, glances and silence. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't fast. But it was honest. Then came the text. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My heart stopped. It was a photo. Just a photo. Her old blue bike leaning against the fence at Horizon House. The same one her friend had mentioned. The white stripe on the frame slightly faded. No message. No name, just the image. But I understood. She was showing me where she was. Not with words but with proof. With presence. I saved the photo and stared at it for a long time. She was close. She was watching. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to believe I wouldn't push. Wouldn't punish. Wouldn't break the fragile thread we were rebuilding. I went to the porch that night and sat in the dark. The air was cool and smelled like wet earth. Somewhere far off a dog barked. Crickets sang their endless song. I whispered into the night, you don't have to rush. I will wait as long as it takes. and for the first time in months I felt peace. Not because she was back but because she was reaching. Even if it was just a fingertip brushing the edge of my world. That was enough. For now it was enough.